All right, this is a test um, for this viewport setup when it comes to SDF. Let me see if I get that arm thing out of the way. Well, actually, I like it. I like it. It's more comfortable. But okay, so here we have the the arm mounts for the lower arm mounts for the Harb. And let me just see if I can get my mouse and everybody play along here. My cursor. Okay, good. All right. Excuse me. Now, so we see with SDF that you can do series of dramatic overlaps and things like that. Okay, let me zoom in. Okay. And just as a reminder, you control all of the, let me see, oh, because my controls are over here. So I gotta go like this. Funny moments. Okay, so my controls are normally here on this side. Okay, fine. I just have to go like this and just reach over. Right, it's kind of weird. It's easy for me to just go click, 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 click. That needs to be in the. I'll set that up differently for these vids. Then I'll have to put that over here. But in any case, you can control obviously like the strength here. Geez, I don't want to do this like this. This is big time awkward. Let me see if I can change that right here while we're on camera. Ooh, I need an outline editor like you wouldn't believe. Outline editor, save me. Not outline, properties. Give me properties window. Come on, come on, come on. You can do it. Here you go. Okay, just for. Oof, I was gonna die. Thought I was gonna die. Where's my transforms? Okay, let me at least put the transforms underneath there. And all right, no harm, no foul. Right, right. Okay, and then we can just we'll just drop this one out for right here. Okay, and go here. All right. Okay, this is closest to ideal I can get because I can't put my outline, I can't put the properties window in the end panel. I can come close, but no, it's not going to give me exactly what I want. But anyway, that's not what I need it for. All right, so let's see, because I'm using the tablet for this because I like this over the shoulder type thing when it comes to training. I'm developing this whole training thing. So let's see how it works out. It's worked out well with the drawings. So okay, and the Huion is doing a good job of acting exactly the way I expected to act. Good. So, matter of fact, it's acting really, really good to the point where I'm like, hey, I can do a lot of SDFs like this. This is actually working good. So, we can once again we can sharpen up the interaction, right? So the model's built, shipped, over for it's rigged now and ready to be surfaced, and then done with a test scene, right? So I can go, I'm going back to the original model and I'm making adjustments if I need be, if I needed to, right? We got all kinds of little wild, crazy stuff happening in here, right? I can see that should be pulled out probably like this. You won't be able to tell in the animation. It's not like because it's all like fused, but we can, just make that quick adjustment. Let me see. What I like the most is this is what I was when one of the things I've always been wanting to do is to be able to make indentations and creases without having to use normal maps. I mean, I like using normal maps, right? So in other words, very, very comfortable with it. generating displacement maps with them and stuff like that. They work very well in Blender, as well. And Blender actually works very well with vertex displacement maps. That that's an actual like secret, right? People think of vertex maps as like using ZBrush stuff, but modo vertex maps to Blender, oh my gosh, that's a whole other video series I want to do. It's so good, but then it gets kind of overlapped a little bit with SDF, because SDF says, hey, you can make your own paneling and stuff like that as complex as you want. You can if you need to have paneling, we can do paneling, you know. And it's like you already got a model, you're not this is not gonna it's not a subdivision surface model. So what are you panicking about, right? Um, and that's the cool part, because the truth is, like, yeah, that's right, I'm not dealing with a subdivision surface model. Which is actually where using the illusion of displacement via a normal map, or an actual true displacement, that's where this actually kicks in. Because what happens with a displacement map, like a real displacement map, is you got to have the geometry underneath the surface, subdivision surface, to support that displacement map displacement, right? So you're going to wind up so although now remember, this is a discussion, so bear with me. So although in your scene you're like, oh, my scene's only like, like 800 megabytes or something like that, and then all of a sudden you pop that baby to render it GPU wise, then all of a sudden this thing's going to jump to 3 gigs, 4 gigs. It's not a big deal, because most of my stuff runs at 8 gigs per scene, right? And that's optimized, but it's 8 gigs per scene. That's what that's a Wild Walker entire scene, character effects, everything, and it's clocking in around like 8 gigs. Yeah, I think it's like eight or six gigs. 6 gigs. I'll go with 6 gigs, right? Um, but and it's using this is displacement in the terrain and stuff like that. That's where the displacement comes in. Um, but a lot of this stuff can be suggested already. Let me see. Double tap. Double tap. Yeah. Okay. A lot of this stuff now can be suggested already in the actual geometry, if you're dealing with a meshed object, right? If you're dealing with a mesh object straight out, or you can build this mesh object and then rip it to a displacement, rip it to a normal map for the animatable model, right? But the main thing is that you're actually making the cuts. It's not hokey, right? Anyway, it's for everybody has their own thing. Some people want to heavily texture theirs a certain way and stuff like that. But this wasn't possible before, okay? And I think I think it actually has a whole other aesthetic. I think SDF models have the ability to have their own aesthetic. Just as how, like, let's say early 3D models had a certain aesthetic. When normal maps came out, then all of a sudden 3D models, whether cinematic or whatever, had a certain aesthetic. Because the normal maps have a certain way of looking and stuff like that. When you put SDF in, it just reminds me of, like, honestly, it reminds me of stop animation. Honestly, it reminds me of stop animation, because it's everything is actually in the object, right? So the lighting is going to calculate true all the way through. It's not going to be like, oh, this part looks like photorealistic, but then this occlusion is going to look a little off because this is the actual geometry. This is, let's say, if I had normal maps running up here, then it may look photorealistic or something, but then the occlusion bounce and stuff, with the simplicity of the form, may be a little bit off. Now, no one's going to notice that, but that actually becomes a look. You won't notice it until something new comes along, and you realize it is 3D, but it doesn't look like that 3D, right? And I believe that's the world of SDF, right? Where basically it's like everything is happening in the geometry itself, and that has a certain look, and that actually brings out a certain aspect of lighting, right? Of path trace light pathing and stuff like that. It brings out certain attributes that you may not notice in other instances. Okay. So you see, I told you it was going to be a discussion, so it got me talking. Um, let's take a look at. Let's see over here. Let's go here. Yep, he's still working. I really liked this area here, and that's once again SDF allows me to work intuitively. There you go. Oh, the pill. So I have a whole training thing on the Harb. I haven't released it yet. But I said, well, you know what? If I do a test, let me at least talk about the Harb. You know, right? So utilizing the pill a lot. Who's this? Do I have somebody? Ooh, that's the cutter. That's the cutter. Everything's angled like this in the Harb. And as you saw, as you see, I think everything with the Harb, most of the stuff is like a 35-degree angle of some sort, or negative 35-degree angle, whatever, however you want to describe it. And everything's still modeled out, for me, modeled out smoothly. It's like there was no orientation issues or anything like that. Okay. So I like just as I said when I do the drawings, when I do my drawings, my heavy lines, my heavy line work drawings. I like the whole thing is you have you have the line, yeah, and then but it's how you can how you can construct now from that line. Same thing with SD, it's same as SDF thing. You have the form, but now how can you arrange it? How can you chop it up? How can you disassemble it? How can you coordinate it with other elements? And once again, that's something. So this is so when I draw it's a nonlinear process. This is an SDF is a nonlinear process. Polygonal modeling is a linear process. It doesn't matter how many. It doesn't matter if your software saves every increment of what you do or whatever it is and make it non-destructive. It still doesn't make it nonlinear. I mean, you can go back, but after a while, it's not like it's not like you can just arrange and stuff. You can just easily go back to earlier stages, maybe. Um, and the same thing with sub D. I love sub D, but sub D and polygonal model are the same thing. They're the same thing. Just one's using a proxy object, and so we're still based on that whole linear thing. So sub D and planar or polygonal modeling are the same thing. I call sub D hyper what I call it hyper modeling or something like that. I used to call it hyper modeling, hyper sub D modeling, because it's just the same thing as polygonal modeling, but the proxy model automatically suggests the curve. But the thing is, all of that is linear. It doesn't matter if it's destructive or not. What matters is it's linear. You can't just make a character. You just can't just make a character arm and go, okay, I made the character arm, and oh well, let me just move it over this way. Now, of course, if you're doing sculpting, then that's a different scenario, right? But I'm talking about from the standpoint of doing well, because I always see sculpting as something separate, separate. I see SDF. I see sculpting as separate because everything's so malleable, right? You can make something hard surface. You can make something organic, and it's very malleable. It's kind of, but I see it separate, and it doesn't necessarily use the same tool sets. While SDF, you're using the same tool sets pretty much, right? Matter of fact, you're using fewer tools, fewer tools, and you're more involved in the arrangement of things and the cutting of things, which I think is more natural. I don't know. It feels, for me, it feels more natural. It feels more because once again, I like building puzzles and doing tangram and stuff. I always talk about that stuff. Let's take a look. All right. And so this one of the things I do like about SDF also like this whole gridded system or vented system here. Normally this would be done with like a normal map, right, to suggest it. And my whole thing is like, but I want the real gridded system because I'm a GPU rendering person, right? So I want to capture every aspect of that lighting, every aspect of that bounce, whatever that rendering thing can do, I want it to capture it, right? So that allows me, but if you put a normal map in there, the normal map is going to do what it does. But when you have the real geometry in there, then you have the real geometry, and that's what gives it a certain look to it, a certain aesthetic to it. And then also when you run dirt maps and 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 other tools for surfacing and stuff. It captures all of this stuff. It gets all in the nook and cranny. Basically like a model. So if you like making models and everything like that, then SDF, you love SDF. Um, because it gives you that tangible real world, like, hey, this is my object. You know, like, yeah. Sometimes we make models. You have little stickers that suggest event or something like that. Fine. Okay, okay, all right. But most things you're like that. You know, this is the real thing. At least this for me, a person who loved toys, models, grew up. You know, as I said before, always building models and doing puzzles as a child, and all that stuff like that. That all that stuff just comes natural to me to want to do. Um, okay, but we're not gonna go. Ooh, whoa, what was that? Oh, I clicked on something and it wants to do something. It wanted to do something. I'm getting it to do something by accident. I don't know what. I just wanted to suggest. Oh, because I double clicked on it and I didn't need to double click on it. Interesting. All right, so I'm just getting used to this. All right, and I just want to place this over here. So I see I can actually build from here. I can build from here. This is good because once again, remember I said that when I use SDF, I have actually I have a mouse, a mouse specifically for this, a trackball specifically for this, and everything just runs on the trackball. And so the same thing happens when I'm running on the monitor. Everything just runs literally right through the pen, the same way as it runs through the trackball, identical. So there's no confusion. Okay, all right, but that was just a brief thing, just to look and see how this looks on the screen, and then maybe I'll do. I'm maybe more likely going to do like some more SDF overview stuff, and maybe even some actual forms using this. Right? Okay, let me just zoom out. Oh yeah, the zoom is good. The zoom is good. All right. Okay.